In our last video, we broke down the Leaving Cert curriculum into its different sections and how each one of those sections is assessed and how much of a percentage is weighted to each of those sections. So we talked about how we had a performance exam, a composition exam and a listening exam, and each of those is worth 25%. If you're doing ordinary level, the remaining 25% of your exam, you can choose where you want it to go, which of those sections you want it to go to. If you're doing higher level, instead of just choosing, you do an elective, which is an extra little bit of work in one of those sections, and that gives you the extra 25%. In this video, I'm going to specifically break down the composition section of the exam and just talk about what it is you'll have to do in the composition paper. In future videos, we'll look at performance, we'll look at listening, and we'll look at the elective section. But for today, I just want to focus on composition. So I'm just going to give us a little bit of a heading here, composition. And for your composition exam, you have to do a paper in the summer on the same day that you do your listening paper. As part of that paper, you're going to have to do two main questions. So you'll have to do a melody writing question, and you'll have to do a harmony writing question, harmony section. So I'm just going to write harmony here. For the melody paper, it's for both papers actually, it's different depending on whether you've chosen to do higher level or ordinary level. So I'm just going to move this up a tiny little bit, and I'm just going to write higher level here. So if you're doing higher level, when you get to your melody section in your composition paper, you'll have to choose between three different questions. You'll have to do one of these three questions, whichever one you have been practicing in class, whichever you're most comfortable with. The first one you could possibly choose is where you do a continuation of a given opening. So I'll just write continuation, just so you can have a look back on this and jog your memory. And for the continuation of a given opening question, what you'll be given is 4 bars of a melody. So you'll be given, just get a different color for that. So you'll be given 4 bars, and you have to write the remaining 12. Okay, that's pretty straightforward. That's what you're going to have to do for the continuation of a given opening question. If you choose not to do that and you choose to do the next question, it's very similar. You still get given 4 bars and you have to write the remaining 12, but in addition, you will get the first, you will get 4 lines from a well-known poem. So I'll just write 4 lines, and I'll write poem just so you can refresh your memory on this. And you'll still, like I said, have to do 4 bars. You'll still be given 4 bars and have to write the remaining 12. In this case, the first line of the 4 that you're given you for the poem will already be set to music. It will be set to 4 bars of music. The 3 remaining lines of the poem you will then have to set to an extra 12 bars of music to make up a full 16 bars. So you've still written the same amount of music as if you'd done the first question. It's just that now you have to be very aware of the structure of the poem, the rhythm of the poem, etc. Just to try and that's what you'll really be focusing on in your writing. The third question then for the higher level melody section is you're composing to a given dance rhythm, a given form, or a given meter, a given rhythm and a given time signature. In this particular question, it's very similar to the first. You'll still be given 4 bars and you'll have to write the remaining 12. In this section, the focus will really be on how much you were able to stick to the dance rhythm or the form that you were told to stick to, and still develop your musical ideas over the course of that 16 bars. So that's the melody section if you're doing a higher level paper. When you get to the next part, then you will also have to do a harmony question. So you've already done 1 melody question, now you've got to do 1 harmony question. And again, you will be able to choose from 3 different harmony questions which one you want to do. The first one you could possibly choose is where you're given you are given the chords. So you will be given a series of chords, and you have to add, I'll just do this in a different color, you have to add a melody and bass notes. So melody and bass notes, and those melody and bass notes have to fit in with those chords that you've been given. The second question in the harmony section is where you're given just a melody. So you're given a melody, and you have to add bass notes and chords. So you add bass notes and chords that fit the given melody, that fit the melody you've already been given. And the third section it's slightly different to those. It's similar to 5. You have to compose a counter melody and chords to a given tune. So you're given a melody once again. In that sense, it's similar to the previous question. But in this case, you have to compose a counter melody and chords. So instead of a bass notes and chords, you have to write a counter melody or descant and chords. So I'm just going to write counter melody and chords here. And we'll go into all of these in much more detail in a later video, and we'll go through examples of how to do them and things. But this is the basic higher level paper, composition paper that you might have to do. Down below I'm going to try and give you an idea of what the ordinary level paper entails. So if you've chosen ordinary level, things are going to be slightly different. You still have to do one melody question. So I'm just going to write melody here again. And you've got to still do one harmony question. But the actual melody and harmony questions you've given, they've been differentiated for ordinary level, and they're much more appropriate to that level of exam. If you're doing the ordinary level paper, for your melody question, you've again got a choice of 3 different questions that you choose one of these from. So the first one is just like in the higher level paper, it's continuation of a given opening. So I'm just going to write continuation here so that you can remember that. Now, unlike the higher level exam where you had to write a full 16 bars and you were given 4, for the ordinary level paper you'll be given 2 bars. So given 2 bars, and you have to write the remaining 6. So altogether it's just an 8-bar melody. It's only half the length of the higher level paper, but you're given 2 bars and you have to write the remaining 6. One of the big differences again here between the ordinary and higher level paper is that you've got to do this twice in the ordinary level paper. So you'll be given 2 bars and you write the remaining 6. Then when you finish that, you've got to do another 8-bar melody where you're given 2 bars and the remaining 6. So you've still got to write the same amount of bars as the higher level paper, but it's split into 2 smaller sub-questions, we'll call them. If you choose not to do that question for ordinary level, you can choose a different one. The next one is the setting of text, very similar to the higher level. You're given 4 lines of text, and in this case, in the ordinary level, you're also given the rhythm for 2 of them. So you'll be given the rhythmic outline for the first 2 lines of text, so half of the text that you have to set your music to, that you have to set to music rather. So I'm just going to write poem text, and you're given the melody for the first 1 line of that. So I'm just going to write that down so you have more of an idea. So you're given 4 lines of text. You're also given the rhythm for the first. So I'm just going to write. Sorry, you're given the rhythm for the first 2. Rhythm for the first 2, and you're given the melody for the first 1 of those lines. Melody for the first 1. And what you have to do then is you've got to add rhythm for the last 2 lines, and you've got to add melody for the last 3 lines. So it's a little bit different to the higher level in that sense, but you still only got to write 8 bars, which makes it a little bit easier than the higher level paper. And the third question you can do for your ordinary level melody is, it's similar to the first one, but you have to use a kind of specific rhythmic style. So it's again related to the higher level question where you have to write in a particular dance style or in a particular form. And it's also quite similar to the ordinary level first question. You're given 2 bars and you've got to write the remaining 6. Moving on to the harmony question for the ordinary level paper. It's again quite similar to the higher level. The questions are based on the higher level questions almost, except that you have to do about half the amount of composition. So if you're doing the first question, you have to write cadential melody and bass notes. So melody and bass notes, melody and bass, and you write those at cadence points. So how that works is you're given 2 bars, then you've got to write 2 more. Then you're given 2 bars, write 2 more, given 2 bars, write 2 more, and given 2 bars, write 2 more. So you're essentially writing 16 bars of music, but you're given 2, then you have to write 2, 2, then you write 2, and so on. And what that means is you're only really adding your own melody and bass notes at the cadence points. So for the second of each group of 2 bars, which means you don't have to focus on openings and things, you just focus on getting it right at the cadences. If you're doing question 5, very similar, you do bass and chords. And again, it's the same layout. You're given 2 bars, you write 2 bars, you're given 2 bars, you write 2 bars, so you're really just focused on writing at the cadence points. And if you choose to do the final question for the ordinary level harmony section, it's similar to the counter melody one from the higher level. So you have to add a counter melody or a descant and chords. So I'm just going to write counter melody and chords. And you have to just write these at cadence points. So you're given 2, you write 2, given 2, write 2. So the real focus in the harmony question in the ordinary level paper is on knowing your cadences, knowing how to write for different cadential styles and things.